Fear is subtle. It rarely appears as a loud warning siren. Instead, it slips quietly into your decisions, disguising itself as caution, logic, even responsibility. But the moment fear becomes the foundation of your trading choices, you stop trading the market and start trading your internal conflicts. And the market doesn't reward internal conflict, it exposes it. Every trader begins with the same intention, to win. But intention alone isn't enough. The markets don't respond to your hopes, your needs, or your anxieties. They respond only to behavior. And when that behavior is shaped by fear, fear of loss, fear of missing out, fear of being wrong, fear of repeating past mistakes, your actions become reactive instead of strategic. You aren't trading your edge anymore. You're trading your emotions. Fear makes you hesitate when you should act. It pushes you to enter early because you're afraid the move will leave without you. It forces you to exit too soon because you're terrified the profit you're seeing might evaporate. It blinds you from opportunity because all you can focus on is what could go wrong. And worst of all, fear creates a cycle that feels logical in the moment but destroys you over time. You avoid risk not because the risk is real, but because the emotional memory of pain is still active inside you. To stop trading in fear, you must understand one fundamental truth. Fear is not a response to the market. Fear is a response to your beliefs about the market. The chart doesn't frighten you, your interpretation does. The volatility doesn't shake you, your lack of trust in your own process does. A losing trade doesn't break you, the meaning you attach to that loss does. Until you address those beliefs, the market will continue to trigger the same emotional patterns, no matter how good your strategy becomes. Trading requires a mental environment where fear doesn't dictate your choices. Not because fear disappears, it never fully does, but because you no longer treat it as truth. The goal is emotional neutrality, the ability to see the market for what it truly is, not what your fear imagines it to be. When you're neutral, you can execute without hesitation. You can let the market flow instead of trying to control it. You can follow your rules even when your emotions argue against them. Fear dissolves when you build confidence in your ability to act consistently, regardless of outcome. And that confidence only comes from understanding that each trade is simply one event in a series of many, a statistical expression of your edge. No single trade carries the power to define you unless you give it that power. Once you stop judging every outcome as personal, you free your mind from the grip of fear. This is the beginning of trading without emotional interference. Not a state where you eliminate fear, but one where you no longer allow it to shape your decisions. When you reach that mindset, you stop surviving the market and start participating in it with clarity, precision, and control. Fear turns trading decisions into emotional reactions, not strategic actions. This single truth defines the separation between those who merely participate in the market and those who master it. When fear is present, even in a subtle form, it reshapes the entire decision-making process. It influences how you read the market, how you interpret risk, and how you judge your own ability to act. Fear doesn't need to be overwhelming to be effective. It only needs a moment to shift your focus from what the market is doing to what you are afraid might happen. And the moment that shift occurs, you stop trading your plan and start trading your emotions. Every trader knows what it feels like to hesitate. That brief pause before clicking the button. That sudden doubt that appears even when the setup looks perfect. That inner voice reminding you of past mistakes. This is fear disguising itself as caution. It convinces you that stepping back is the safer choice, even when your rules clearly say otherwise. The problem is that hesitation may feel logical in the moment, but it is always emotional in origin. The market does not change during that second of doubt. Only your emotional state does. And when your emotional state drives your decisions, your entire approach becomes inconsistent. Fear also causes overreaction. Instead of waiting for confirmation, you jump into trades early because you're afraid the move will leave without you. You chase candles because the anxiety of missing out becomes stronger than the discipline of following your edge. A trader who reacts to FOMO isn't responding to opportunity, they're responding to internal pressure. Fear makes you treat every move as a threat, every small retracement as potential disaster, every moment of uncertainty as a reason to abandon your plan. And when you abandon your plan, you give up the only structure that protects you from the randomness of the market. One of the most damaging effects of fear is the distortion of perception. The market becomes a reflection of your emotional state rather than an environment of opportunities and probabilities. When you're afraid of losing, every red candle feels like a warning sign. When you're afraid of being wrong. Every fluctuation feels like a personal attack on your judgment. When you're afraid of repeating a past mistake, you begin to see patterns that don't exist, risks that aren't real, and dangers that only live in your memory. Fear blurs the line between reality and interpretation, turning clear setups into confusing signals and turning normal market movement into emotional turbulence. Trading decisions made under fear are reactive by nature. They are not based on context, logic, or statistics, but on the emotional need to feel safe in the moment. You exit too early because securing a small profit feels safer than risking a larger one. You hold losing trades because closing them means accepting emotional pain, not just financial loss. Fear doesn't care about the quality of the decision. It only cares about reducing discomfort. But in trading, the decisions that feel most comfortable are often the decisions that cost the most. The market rewards discipline, not comfort. It rewards consistency, not emotional relief. Another subtle way fear influences traders is through avoidance. When you've taken a loss, fear pushes you to avoid opportunities that look similar, even if they align perfectly with your strategy. You tell yourself you're being careful, but what you're really doing is avoiding the emotional memory of pain. You stop trusting your setup because one or two trades hurt you, forgetting that losses are inevitable and necessary. You stop trusting yourself because fear convinces you that a single mistake defines your ability. Avoidance may feel protective, but it slowly erodes confidence, damages discipline, and creates a pattern of missed opportunities. Fear also amplifies the importance of each trade. When you're emotionally driven, a single loss feels catastrophic, a single win feels like validation, and every outcome becomes a reflection of your worth. This emotional attachment to results creates enormous pressure. And under pressure, the mind seeks relief rather than accuracy. It pushes you toward impulsive actions because the discomfort of uncertainty feels intolerable. Instead of allowing the market to unfold, you try to control it. Instead of trusting your edge, you try to outguess it. Instead of letting probability play out, you try to force outcomes. This constant pressure turns trading into a psychological battle rather than a structured process. Fear also creates a loop that reinforces negative behavior. You act out of fear, the result is poor, the poor result strengthens the fear, and the cycle continues. This loop destroys confidence over time. Confidence doesn't disappear in a single moment. It's slowly chipped away each time you let fear override your rules. And once confidence weakens, fear grows stronger because there is no internal foundation to counter it. Every trader who spirals into inconsistency is caught in this loop. The problem isn't the market or the strategy, it's the emotional state driving the decisions. When fear dominates your trading, you also lose the ability to think in probabilities. The mind becomes locked in short-term thinking, preoccupied with avoiding pain rather than evaluating risk objectively. Instead of recognizing that losses are simply part of the statistical distribution, fear makes each loss feel like a signal that something is wrong. Instead of seeing trades as neutral events, you perceive them as threats or validations. Probabilistic thinking requires emotional detachment, and fear makes detachment impossible. As long as fear shapes your decisions, you will always view the market emotionally rather than mathematically. Fear affects not only what you do, but also what you fail to do. Opportunities pass because you're waiting for perfect certainty, perfect confirmation, perfect comfort, none of which exist in trading. The desire to eliminate uncertainty is the root of fearful decision-making. But the market is uncertainty. Trying to avoid it means you're trying to avoid the very essence of trading. The trader who fears uncertainty becomes trapped, unable to act even when conditions align perfectly, because the emotional need for safety overrides every logical reason to execute. Fear also damages discipline. Trading rules are designed to create consistency, but fear makes you break them selectively. You follow them when you feel comfortable and abandon them when you feel threatened. This selective discipline is worse than having no discipline at all because it creates the illusion that you are following a plan while your emotions are actually in control. Fear convinces you that deviation is justified, that improvisation is necessary, that abandoning a rule just this once is harmless. But each small deviation becomes a precedent, making it easier for fear to take control again. Fear can also push traders into revenge trading. After a loss, the emotional pain becomes so strong that the mind seeks immediate relief through a quick win. You enter a trade without analysis, without patience, without your usual standards, driven by the urge to erase the discomfort. Revenge trading is pure emotional reaction, a direct expression of fear mixed with frustration. It has nothing to do with strategy and everything to do with emotional imbalance. Every trader who has blown an account has done it while trading from this emotional state. Ultimately, fear replaces clarity with confusion. It replaces structure with chaos. It replaces strategy with impulse. A trader who makes decisions from fear is not interacting with the market objectively. They are reacting to internal narratives, emotional wounds, past experiences, and imagined futures. Fear creates a layer between you and the charts, making everything harder to interpret, harder to trust, and harder to execute. It distorts time, making moments feel longer, decisions feel heavier, and outcomes feel more personal than they truly are. This is why fear turns trading into emotional reaction instead of strategic action. Trading demands neutrality, consistency, and trust in your edge. Fear disrupts all three, turning even the best strategy into an unpredictable emotional roller coaster. The market doesn't scare you, your beliefs about the market do. This idea may seem simple on the surface, but it is the psychological core of why so many traders struggle, hesitate, panic, or sabotage themselves without ever understanding what is actually happening inside their minds. The market itself is neutral. It does not know you exist. It does not target you. It does not reward you, and it does not punish you. It simply moves based on collective behavior, order flow, and probability. Yet traders experience fear, anxiety, pressure, frustration, and confusion as if the market were a living force acting against them. That emotional turmoil doesn't come from the chart. It comes from the internal beliefs you project onto the chart. Your beliefs shape how you interpret every candle, every breakout, every pullback, and every shift in momentum. Two traders can look at the same chart and feel completely different emotions. One feels confident because they believe in their edge and understand the nature of probabilities. The other feels panic because they believe every move could hurt them or expose a flaw in their ability. The chart is identical for both, but their emotional reactions are entirely different because their beliefs filter the experience. Your mind is not responding to reality, it is responding to the meaning you assign to reality. Beliefs are powerful because they operate automatically. You don't consciously decide to feel fear when the market moves against you. That reaction is triggered by deep-rooted interpretations formed from past experiences, emotional memories, and the expectations you carry into each trade. If you believe losing is dangerous, humiliating, or unacceptable, then even a small pullback will activate fear. If you believe the market is unpredictable and unsafe, then every move will feel threatening. If you believe your identity is tied to being right, then every fluctuation will feel like a challenge to your self-worth. The market itself isn't creating any of these feelings. Your beliefs are. Many traders assume their emotions come from the market because the emotions only show up during trading. But the market merely exposes what already exists within you. It acts like a psychological mirror. It triggers unresolved beliefs about risk, self-trust, competence, and control. If deep down you don't trust yourself to follow your plan, the market will expose that belief the first time volatility increases. If you don't truly accept that losses are normal, the market will expose that belief when a setup fails. If you secretly believe the market owes you something because of the work you've put in, the market will expose that belief the moment it takes back your gains. The market brings your beliefs to the surface, but it does not create them. This is why two traders can use the same strategy with completely different results. The strategy isn't the deciding factor. The belief system behind the strategy is. A trader who believes in probabilities can execute with confidence because they understand that any single trade is just one event in a larger sample. They are not emotionally shaken by a loss because their belief system interprets that loss as part of the process. Another trader using the same strategy but holding the belief that losing is a sign of failure will crumble emotionally after the exact same loss. They will hesitate on the next setup, modify entries impulsively, or start overanalyzing the chart trying to avoid more pain. The difference lies not in the chart but in the internal meaning attached to the outcome. Beliefs also influence how much risk you feel capable of handling. A trader who believes risk is an opportunity will approach the market with curiosity and openness. A trader who believes risk is danger will approach every trade with tension and defensive thinking. That tension leads to premature exits, second-guessing, and inconsistent execution. Fear doesn't arise because the market is risky. Fear arises because your belief interprets risk as something personally threatening. This interpretation becomes the emotional reality that drives your behavior. The belief that you must always be right is one of the most damaging beliefs a trader can carry. It turns the market into an adversary and every losing trade into a personal attack. When you believe being wrong makes you less capable or less worthy, the fear of being wrong becomes overwhelming. You avoid placing trades, avoid closing losing ones, or constantly shift your analysis to align with whatever outcome feels emotionally safer. This belief alone destroys consistency because trading is not about being right, it is about managing probabilities. The market doesn't scare you when it moves against you. The belief that being wrong is unacceptable does. Another destructive belief is the illusion of control. Many traders secretly believe they can influence outcomes by analyzing more, predicting more, or reacting faster. When the market refuses to align with that illusion, the result is frustration, anxiety, or panic. The emotional pain doesn't come from the unpredictability of the market. It comes from the belief that unpredictability should not exist. The market is inherently uncertain, but your beliefs try to impose certainty on it. This conflict between reality and expectation is the true source of stress. Beliefs about money also shape emotional responses. If you believe money is hard to earn, losing even a small amount will feel painful. If you believe money defines your success, every fluctuation in your account will feel like a fluctuation in your value as a person. The market becomes emotionally charged not because of the movement itself, but because of the beliefs attached to what that movement represents. A trader who views money as a tool will navigate losses without emotional collapse. A trader who views money as identity will fall apart emotionally when the market takes some of it away. Beliefs about yourself play an even bigger role. If you believe you're not good enough, the market will provide endless evidence to reinforce that belief because every loss will feel like confirmation. If you believe success must come quickly, every setback will feel unbearable. If you believe you cannot trust your decisions, hesitation will dominate your behavior. If you believe trading should feel comfortable, the discomfort of uncertainty will feel intolerable. None of these beliefs come from the market. They come from you, and the market simply activates them. The most dangerous part is that beliefs create emotional predictions. If you believe a trade might hurt you, your mind reacts to that imagined outcome as if it were real. The fear you feel is not about what is happening, but what you believe could happen. The market is not the source of the threat is internal. This is why fear can appear even before you enter a trade, even when the setup is perfect, even when your plan is clear. The fear comes from your belief system projecting meaning into the future. Your beliefs create the emotional world you experience while trading. If those beliefs are rooted in fear, doubt, or rigidity, the market will feel hostile, risky, and unpredictable. If those beliefs are rooted in acceptance, probability, and neutrality, the market will feel manageable, structured, and filled with opportunity. The difference has nothing to do with what the market is doing and everything to do with how you interpret what the market is doing. Emotional neutrality is essential for consistent execution. A trader who cannot stay neutral becomes a trader controlled by the highs and lows of the market, constantly shifting between confidence and panic depending on the outcome of the last trade or the direction of the last candle. Neutrality is not the absence of emotion, it is the ability to prevent emotion from influencing the decisions you make. Without neutrality, every move the market makes becomes personal. With neutrality, every move is simply information. The difference between these two internal states determines whether you act from clarity or confusion. Neutrality allows the trader to see the market as it is, instead of how they fear it might be. When you're emotionally attached to outcomes, your perception becomes distorted. A simple pullback looks like the beginning of a reversal. A moment of consolidation feels like a threat. A losing trade becomes a reflection of your worth instead of a statistical event. Emotional attachment creates psychological noise that makes it difficult to read the market objectively. Neutrality removes the noise. It allows you to interpret the chart without projecting your hopes, fears, or past experiences onto it. When your mind is neutral, your analysis becomes cleaner, your entries become sharper, and your ability to follow your rules improves dramatically. Neutrality also protects you from overreacting to the natural randomness of price movement. The market does not move in straight lines. It fluctuates, retraces, spikes, and pauses. Traders who are not neutral perceive these normal movements as tests of their judgment. They tighten their stop loss out of fear, close winning trades prematurely, or refuse to enter high-quality setups because they feel uncertain. Neutrality allows you to recognize that randomness is part of the game, not a signal of danger. Instead of reacting impulsively to every fluctuation, you allow the trade to play out according to your plan. This lack of emotional reactivity is one of the most powerful edges a trader can cultivate. Emotional neutrality also strengthens discipline. Many traders have well-defined rules but struggle to follow them because their emotions interfere at critical moments. Fear makes them exit early, greed makes them hold too long, impatience makes them chase, and frustration makes them overtrade. When a trader is emotionally neutral, those impulses lose their power. You can execute your rules because nothing inside you is fighting against them. You don't feel compelled to protect yourself from imagined pain or chase imagined opportunity. You simply follow the structure you created because you trust the process more than your shifting emotional state. Neutrality serves as a psychological buffer that keeps you from personalizing outcomes. Losses become information instead of emotional wounds. Wins become data points instead of emotional highs. You stop attaching identity to performance. You stop treating each trade as a test of your ability. You stop allowing one bad day to define your confidence. A trader who remains neutral after a loss can take the next setup calmly. A trader who remains neutral after a win can avoid becoming careless or euphoric. The goal is not to eliminate emotion, but to ensure emotion never dictates your behavior. Neutrality also creates the mental space needed for probabilistic thinking. Trading is a game of probabilities, not certainties. Each trade is one of many, and no single outcome has inherent meaning. But emotional traders struggle to see trading this way because their feelings attach significance to every fluctuation. When you're neutral, you are free to treat each trade as an independent event, detached from your self-image or emotional history. You accept that some trades will fail even if you execute perfectly. You accept that randomness can produce streaks of wins and streaks of losses. You accept that your job is not to predict, but to execute. This acceptance is only possible when you approach the market without emotional baggage. Neutrality also enhances focus. Emotional traders become distracted by internal chatter. What if I lose again? What if this is the wrong choice? What if the market reverses? This mental noise drains attention and increases cognitive load, making it harder to make clear decisions. Neutrality quiets the mind. Without emotional turbulence, your focus shifts outward toward the structure of the market instead of inward toward your fears or desires. You become more present, more aware, and more capable of reading the subtle behavior of price. This kind of attention cannot exist when you are emotionally entangled in every movement. Neutrality reinforces patience. Many traders struggle with waiting for their setups because emotional discomfort pushes them to act prematurely. They fear missing out, fear being left behind, fear being idle while others are making money. Neutrality dissolves this pressure because you no longer feel emotionally attached to constant action. You understand that waiting is part of trading, that opportunity arises from discipline, not from activity. When you are neutral, you can wait for your edge without anxiety, without boredom, and without self-doubt. Patience becomes natural instead of forced. Neutrality also helps you handle volatility. When markets move fast, emotions intensify. A non-neutral trader becomes reactive, either trying to capitalize on every spike or trying to protect themselves from every dip. A neutral trader observes the volatility without feeling compelled to react impulsively. They understand that volatility is neither good nor bad, it is simply a change in conditions. Neutrality allows you to respond strategically instead of emotionally when the market becomes unpredictable. You can choose to engage or stay out based on your rules, not on heightened feelings. Neutrality is essential for identifying your edge. Emotional traders often change strategies frequently because they blame the system for results caused by emotional decisions. They abandon good approaches because they cannot execute consistently under emotional pressure. Neutrality allows you to see whether your edge truly works because your execution is consistent enough to evaluate it accurately. Without neutrality, you cannot distinguish between strategy failure and emotional interference. With neutrality, patterns become clearer, data becomes meaningful, and adjustments become rational rather than reactive. Neutrality strengthens confidence, not the arrogant, fragile confidence that comes from a winning streak, but the stable confidence that comes from knowing you can execute with consistency regardless of outcome. This confidence arises from the internal clarity that neutrality provides. You don't trust the market, you trust yourself. You don't rely on emotion for motivation, you rely on structure. You don't judge your ability by short-term results, you judge it by the quality of your decisions. Confidence formed from neutrality is resilient because it isn't dependent on external conditions. Neutrality also helps you maintain long-term perspective. Emotional traders often focus too much on the current trade, the current hour, or the current day. They lose sight of the bigger picture because their emotional state is tied to immediate results. Neutrality allows you to view trading as a long-term process. You recognize that consistency emerges over months, not minutes. You understand that your job is to execute your edge repeatedly, not to win every trade. This long-term view reduces pressure, reduces impatience, and reduces emotional attachment to individual outcomes. Emotional neutrality is not something that emerges automatically. It is cultivated intentionally through self-awareness, repetition, and a commitment to following your plan, regardless of how you feel. But once neutrality becomes your baseline, everything in trading becomes clearer. Your analysis becomes sharper, your execution becomes cleaner, your risk management becomes more precise. Neutrality doesn't guarantee profit, but it removes the internal obstacles that prevent you from applying your edge accurately. Confidence comes from seeing each trade as one event in a larger series. When you truly internalize this, the entire emotional weight of trading shifts. Most traders struggle not because their strategy is flawed, but because they place too much psychological importance on each individual trade. They treat every entry as if it must validate their ability, every loss as if it reveals something fundamentally wrong with them, and every win as if it must guarantee future success. This creates enormous pressure and makes trading feel like a constant battle for emotional survival. But when you see each trade as just one event in a long sequence, that pressure dissolves. The meaning attached to any single outcome becomes neutral, and neutrality creates confidence. Seeing trading as a series means understanding that no single trade has the power to define your performance. Your edge plays out over hundreds of trades, not one or two. Even a highly effective system will produce losses, streaks of losses, unexpected outcomes, and moments that look completely opposite of what probability suggests. But none of those moments matter on their own. They only matter in the context of the entire distribution of outcomes. When you stop obsessing over the result of an individual trade and focus on the collective pattern, confidence becomes natural because you stop fighting the randomness inherent in the market. This perspective also changes how you perceive risk. When each trade feels like a test of your skill, risk feels threatening. You hesitate, you tighten stops unnecessarily, or you avoid entering trades that meet your criteria because you fear a single negative outcome. But when each trade is simply a contribution to the overall sample, risk becomes just part of the process. You accept that some trades will lose because losing is built into the structure of your edge. This acceptance creates psychological freedom. Stop trying to avoid losses, and instead you focus on executing consistently so the edge has room to express itself. Confidence built on series-based thinking is more stable than confidence built on short-term performance. Many traders feel confident only when they're winning. The moment a losing streak appears, their confidence collapses because they've tied it to outcomes rather than process. But confidence rooted in the understanding of long-term probabilities remains intact, even through difficult periods. You recognize that losing streaks are not personal or predictive, they are statistical inevitabilities. Instead of panicking during them, you continue to execute your plan because you trust the long-term expression of your edge more than the temporary emotional discomfort of a loss. Thinking in series also allows you to manage emotional fluctuations more effectively. When you view each trade as a small piece of a larger puzzle, your emotional reactions become less intense. A win doesn't inflate your ego, and a loss doesn't crush your spirit. Both outcomes simply become data points that contribute to your overall performance metrics. This emotional stability is essential for consistent execution. It prevents overreaction, revenge trading, hesitation, and impulsive decisions. It keeps you grounded, focused, and disciplined even in moments of uncertainty. Viewing trades as a series reinforces discipline because it keeps your attention on the process rather than the result. The process, your rules, your edge, your risk management, is what produces long-term success. The results of individual trades are irrelevant noise compared to the larger sample. When your mindset is aligned with the series, you no longer feel tempted to deviate from your plan just because the last few trades didn't go your way. You understand that consistency in execution is what allows your system to function. Without consistency, even the best strategy fails. With it, even a simple edge becomes powerful over time. This mindset also reduces the emotional need to be right. When traders focus on individual outcomes, they become obsessed with accuracy. They want to win every trade, avoid every loss, and interpret every market move perfectly. This is impossible and leads to chronic frustration. But when you see trades as a series, being right or wrong on any single trade becomes irrelevant. What matters is the statistical expectation of your edge. You could be wrong on many trades and still end the month profitable if your risk to reward and win rate align with your system. Releasing the need to be right is liberating. It frees your mind from ego-driven decisions and allows you to operate with clarity. Confidence also grows when you start tracking your performance over large samples. Numbers reveal truths that emotions try to hide. When you look at 100 or 200 trades, patterns emerge: your average win, average loss, maximum drawdown, win rate, and expectancy. These metrics give you objective evidence of your performance. When you rely on metrics instead of feelings, you become less reactive to temporary fluctuations. A losing trade no longer feels like failure. It becomes part of the expected statistical distribution. A winning trade no longer feels like success. It becomes a normal expression of your edge. This objective view builds confidence rooted in measurable performance rather than emotional perception. Seeing trades as a series also helps you avoid the trap of over-optimizing. Traders often tinker with their strategy constantly because they judge the system based on a handful of outcomes. If a setup fails once or twice, they think it's broken. If a particular entry style produces a loss, they abandon it. This constant tweaking prevents them from ever giving their edge enough time to prove itself. But when you think in series, you understand that small sample outcomes do not determine long-term validity. You stop chasing perfection and start seeking consistency. Over time, this stability allows your strategy to mature and deliver results. Confidence from series-based thinking also reduces emotional burnout. Trading becomes exhausting when every trade feels like a life or death moment. When you detach from individual results, trading becomes calmer, smoother, and more sustainable. You conserve emotional energy because you're no longer reacting intensely to short-term movement. This long-term sustainability is crucial for every trader because burnout leads to mistakes, impulsiveness, and eventual withdrawal from the market. A trader who thinks in series survives and thrives because the emotional load is significantly lighter. Seeing each trade as one event in a larger series creates psychological resilience. Resilience is the ability to continue executing your plan regardless of emotional conditions. When you're resilient, no single setback can disrupt your confidence. You view challenges as part of the journey instead of threats to your identity. This resilience is especially important during uncertain market conditions, during transitions between strategies, and during drawdowns. Without resilience, even minor adversity can cause collapse. With it, you remain steady, focused, and committed. Confidence built from long-term thinking also improves risk management. When each trade is part of a series, you understand the importance of protecting your capital so the series can continue. You don't risk too much because you understand that one trade doesn't determine success, but losing too much on one trade can damage the entire series. This awareness encourages responsible risk, not out of fear but out of respect for the process. Ultimately, seeing each trade as one event in a larger series transforms your entire relationship with the market. It shifts your focus from emotional reactions to objective execution. It builds confidence that is stable instead of fragile. It aligns your thinking with probability instead of perfection. It removes pressure, reduces fear, and strengthens discipline. There comes a moment in every trader's journey when they realize that the charts they're staring at aren't the real battlefield at all. The candles, the indicators, the levels, they're just reflections of something much deeper happening within the trader. Keynote number 5 points directly at this truth. Your actions in the market will always reveal your true beliefs, not the beliefs you claim to have, not the strategies you say you follow, not the discipline you wish you possessed. The market exposes the gap between who you think you are and who you actually are, and if you are willing to look closely, that gap becomes the gateway to transformation. Every trader loves to believe they are disciplined, patient, rational, and aware, but watch how quickly those beliefs dissolve the moment money is on the line. A trader who claims to be patient suddenly starts chasing moves at the top of the candle. Someone who insists they follow risk management starts widening stop losses the moment a trade goes against them. A trader who swears they have no fear starts hesitating on perfect setups simply because the last trade was a loser. This is the uncomfortable truth. Your behavior under pressure reveals the beliefs operating inside you. The beliefs you may never have acknowledged, the beliefs you didn't even know were guiding your decisions. A trader may say, "I trust my strategy," but if they jump out of a winning trade too early, the market has shown that they do not trust it. Another trader may say, "I don't fear losses," Yet every time they avoid placing a trade after a losing streak, it's clear that fear still dictates their actions. The market doesn't judge these contradictions, it simply reflects them. It doesn't punish you for who you are, but it does expose you. And once it exposes you, you have a choice: ignore it and keep repeating the same patterns, or face it and begin reshaping your beliefs from the inside. The reason markets are so effective at revealing beliefs is because trading happens in real time, with real consequences. There is no hiding. There is no pretending. Every click is a reflection of a thought, every hesitation a reflection of a fear, every impulse a reflection of a belief you still hold about risk, uncertainty, and possibility. And when you begin to see this, truly see it, you understand that the market is not your opponent, it is your mirror. It is the place where you get to see what you believe about yourself, about success, about opportunity, about danger, about control, and about the unknown. Most traders look for strategies to fix their bad decisions instead of looking at the beliefs driving those decisions. But the behavior cannot change until the belief changes. If you believe that wins must happen quickly, you will always exit too early. If you believe that losses are unacceptable, you will always avoid pulling the trigger. If you believe that opportunity is scarce, you will take trades that don't meet your criteria. If you believe you're unlucky, you will sabotage your own trades before they move in your favor. Beliefs filter perception. They control what you see, and more importantly, what you don't allow yourself to see. This is why two traders can look at the same chart and experience completely different realities. One sees a clear setup with defined risk, while the other sees danger and doubt. One sees simplicity, the other complexity. One sees opportunity, the other confusion. They are not reacting to the market, they are reacting to the beliefs they bring into the market. And until those beliefs are confronted, identified, and reshaped, the trader will remain trapped in the same cycle of repeated mistakes. The most powerful shift begins when you stop trying to force the market to behave in a way that makes you comfortable and instead learn to work on the internal structures that determine your actions. The right belief system doesn't guarantee that every trade will be a winner, but it ensures that every decision comes from clarity rather than fear. It allows you to take trades without the need to predict outcomes. It allows you to accept losses without emotional distortion. It allows you to let winners run without the anxiety of uncertainty. It allows you to remain stable in an environment built on unpredictability. When your beliefs align with the realities of the market, your behavior becomes consistent. You no longer hesitate on good setups because you accept risk as a natural part of the process. You no longer overtrade because you understand that opportunity is endless. You no longer chase because you believe that missing a move doesn't diminish future potential. You no longer revenge trade because you understand that the market owes you nothing. You no longer panic because you trust your system and your ability to execute it. This alignment doesn't happen through force, it happens through awareness. It happens when you begin to see your losing trades not as failures but as feedback. It happens when you begin to see frustration as a signal pointing toward an internal belief that needs recalibration. It happens when you acknowledge that the market is never causing your emotional reactions. Your beliefs are. And when you begin to recognize the emotions you feel not as obstacles, but as indicators of hidden beliefs, then trading stops being a battle and becomes a process of self-discovery. The trader who embraces this process gradually becomes immune to the chaos around them. The noise fades because their internal world stabilizes. They stop needing certainty from the market because they've built certainty within themselves. They stop fearing losses because they trust their ability to handle them. They stop clinging to wins because they no longer tie their identity to outcomes. They begin to operate from a place of fluidity, openness, and grounded conviction. Every action becomes deliberate, not reactive. Every decision becomes calm, not emotional. And this shift creates an entirely new experience of trading, one defined by clarity rather than conflict.